It was the 1960s. Martin Luther King Jr. had just led the Selma to Montgomery March, and Cesar Chavez was fighting for the labor rights of farm workers. It was during this time that a young Native American iron worker named Richard Oakes became an unlikely leader, starting his own movement and leading the infamous protest known as the occupation of Alcatraz. Richard Oakes was born into the Mohawk Nation in 1942. He grew up on the Akwesasne Reservation in upstate New York, and at the age of 16, he left for the city, armed with the ironworking skills his father taught him. A decade later, Oakes went west and relocated to the Red Ghetto in San Francisco's Mission District, where many Native Americans had been sent, after being forced off their reservations during the 1950s Relocation Act, which was an attempt to assimilate natives into the dominant American culture. Once there, Oakes worked as a bartender and enrolled himself at San Francisco State University. There, he spoke out against the outdated curriculum, helped create one of the first Native American studies departments in the country, and worked to increase the enrollment and hiring of Native Americans. Described as boisterous, charismatic, and handsome, Oakes was a hard person to ignore, and he quickly became a familiar face in the community. Oakes was approached with an idea that would change the course of his life. An elder named Adam Fortunate Eagle laid out a plan to take over an island formerly home to the country's most brutal prison, Alcatraz. It was the first time a collective of tribes, including Iroquois, Navajo, Blackfoot, and other tribes located throughout the Bay Area, would band together for one sole purpose. Natives used the island for hunting and gathering and exiling their own. But its most notable usage was as a hiding place for those attempting to escape from the California mission system. Centuries later, the U.S. government infamously used Alcatraz as a prison until it was shut down in 1953, leaving it completely unoccupied. In the years after, the Sioux tribe made an attempt to reclaim the land, but failed. On November 9, 1969, Oakes and a group of indigenous student organizers headed for Alcatraz. When they arrived, the activists immediately presented their goals for the protest. 1, buy the deed from the state, and 2, have the United States government pay for the building of a school, museum, and cultural center.
We will purchase said Alcatraz Island for $24 in glass beads and red cloth, a precedent set by the white man's purchase of a similar island about 300 years ago.
It was the beginning of what would become a 10,000-strong, 19-month occupation by Native Americans from across the country. Oakes and the occupation became a media favorite. They rallied support from across the nation and received donations from celebrities who even visited the island during the actual protest to show their support. Dubbed the mayor of Alcatraz, Oakes led negotiations with the federal government and had to argue for each supply boat allowed past a blockade set up by the Coast Guard. Despite his grueling effort, Oakes had to give up his place as leader of the Alcatraz protest after the tragic accidental death of his daughter. By June 1971, federal marshals had removed the last of the occupiers. He went on to rally for the Pitt River Tribe's reclamation of land in Northern California, and he planned to take his family on a nationwide tour of reservations. But he never did, because Richard Oakes was shot and killed trying to stop an altercation between 2 native boys and camp rangers. The ranger who shot him said he saw an already injured Oakes reach for a weapon. And though Oakes was injured and unarmed, the ranger was acquitted of manslaughter on the grounds of self-defense. Richard Oakes might not be here today, but his legacy is still felt. His work bolstered the Red Power movement and exposed the American public to the plight of Native Americans. Although today, Native Americans continue to have to fight for their land, education, and basic resources.